is Debbie Lees, and I am the Health Improvement Manager for the Highlands and Argyll and Bute area for Waverley Care. My role is I provide the health improvement work across the Highlands and Argyll and Bute. So that is coordinating and providing our one-to-one support for people living with HIV. It's also providing things like testing and our free condoms by post service across the area. We do a lot of outreach work as well, which supports people into accessing things like PrEP and talking about their sexual health as a whole. What inspires me? My colleagues inspire me. Their drive and their ingenuity inspires me. Also the peer mentors who I work with, they inspire me. Their passion and their drive for the work that they do is a constant motivator for me. I think World AIDS Day is a hugely important day. It gives us all an opportunity to come together, for an opportunity for remembrance, but also a big opportunity to come together to support people who are living with HIV today. It's a really good opportunity as well to go out and speak to people and engage with people and talk to them about HIV and what things are like in 2023 for those living with HIV. Good opportunity to tackle stigma as well. World AIDS Day, I'm going to be in Oban, so I'm going to be speaking at Oban Pride's World AIDS Day Vigil. During the day, I'm going to be offering some of our point of care rapid HIV tests. I'm also going to be speaking to a group of young people in Oban High School about HIV and the LGBTQ plus community. During the week as well, we've got a range of activities. We're going in to speak to some healthcare staff in Raigmore Hospital in Inverness, and also offering some of our rapid point of care tests in our Inverness office. So a rapid point of care test is the test that we use when we're out testing in the community. So it's a test that just requires a small sample of blood from somebody's finger, and we can have a result within 2 minutes from that. So that's typically the test that we would use when we're out testing in the community. It's the test that we'll be using on World AIDS Day as well. Stigma. I think stigma means different things to different people, because everybody's experience of stigma is going to be different. For me, working as a health improvement coordinator in the Highlands and Argyll and Bute, I think stigma is still one of the biggest challenges that people living with HIV face. It's something that we hear a lot about, and I think it's something that's still very prominent in the lives of people who are living with HIV today. What concerns me is how often we still hear stories of stigma from the people that we support. It's still something that's, like I said, very relevant. Things as well, I suppose something else that would concern me is how is people being able to access support when they need it, whether that be from ourselves at Waverley Care, whether that be from another third sector organisation or from the NHS. What concerns me is people not being able to access that support, whether that be for their mental health, their physical health, maybe something that's entirely not connected to their HIV, but it would be concerning for me if people weren't able to access the support needed. How do we see the future in terms of stigma, U equals U and get to zero? Ideally, I'd like stigma to be a thing of the past. That would be what I would like to see in the future. I think tackling stigma is a huge part of getting to zero, of reaching that zero HIV transmissions by 2030. I don't think so. No, I think tackling stigma is something that's absolutely key to getting to zero transmissions. And there's a lot of work for us to do to tackle that stigma, and not just organisations like Waverley Care, but other organisations and maybe people who don't know anything about HIV and stigma. I think there's work for everybody across Scotland to do. Certainly not just organisations and people living with HIV, but it's yes, everybody. Organisations like the Scottish Government, healthcare staff, organisations like Waverley Care and THT and things as well. Improving access, I think, is a really complex question, because improving access means very different things for different communities, because the barriers for different communities can be so varied. It could be cultural barriers, stigma itself as well. So there would be many aspects to improving access. Thinking from a remote and rural point of view, from where I do a lot of my work, improving access is really a complex thing. There's so many aspects that would come into that, such as tackling concerns that people have around their confidentiality in small communities, a general lack of services in some areas as well. That's something that would need to be changed to improve access, and distance from services as well. Sometimes even when there is services, the distance that people have to travel to access these services. So making things more accessible for everyone looks different for everyone, and I think being led by what people feel that they want and would make a difference to them would be the best place to start with. That is listening to the people who are looking to access them services. Yeah, confidentiality isn't just a thing that's concerning in the Highlands and Argyll and Bute. It's something that everyone across Scotland would be concerned about. I think in small communities it's a slightly different concerns, where your neighbour can be the GP, or your cousin is the receptionist at that GP surgery or at the sexual health clinic. It's small communities have a real challenge overcoming people's concerns around confidentiality and disclosure of status, and so I think being led by what people feel would help improve their access would be the best place to start with. The challenges in accessing PrEP and testing, I think, are probably quite similar in a way to what we just talked about, and about improving access, in that things like cultural beliefs are something that's a challenge. Generally raising awareness as well across the board as well is something that we need to do to make people realise, that it's everybody. It could be relevant to so many different communities. Part of definitely widening access to PrEP is key to getting to zero, and so is increasing testing and making people aware that PrEP and PEP are available. I think there's still some people out there who have never heard of it, and who may benefit from that. Testing as well, encouraging testing and making sure it's available to everybody would be key to getting to zero. The challenges for that, is, like I said, are quite similar, I think, to improving access, in that there's, particularly in remote and rural areas, there's different challenges to perhaps something in the centre of Glasgow. Things like our confidentiality challenges, the distance from services and lack of services as well in some areas. That I'm probably not the best person to comment on on third sector cuts. I think it's not something I have a whole lot of in-depth knowledge about, but I think that obviously there's things going on in the current financial climate, and any cuts that are made to any services need to be something that's really considered and thought through, rather than done, and should be led by what people think as well, and people who are working on the ground as well should be consulted and informed and asked for their views about what's happening. In terms of how has stigma changed, again, possibly I'm not the best person to answer that. I haven't been with Waverley Care for a long time, only 2 years, so I don't have a huge insight into how things have particularly changed over the last 10, 20 years. What I can comment on is that I know that the people that we support are still experiencing stigma. It's still very much an issue, it's still very much a problem, and it's not something that's gone away. Yeah, World AIDS Day is definitely a day that we can highlight the stigma that people are still experiencing and go out and try and challenge some of that stigma, really bring HIV to the forefront of people's minds and conversations, not just for a day, but hopefully bring that into their thoughts for things that they're doing every day rather than just one day.